Now I'd like to have on the show to talk about the big final going on down in Australia with Australian rules football. Our old friend Joel O'Brien from the Australian Football Club here. Joel, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm well, thank you, Jason. How are you?
Well, I'm very good. Now, the big final goes this weekend for the championship in the Australian Rules Football League. What does this mean to that country?
Well, look, it's basically better than Christmas. How's that
sound? It's absolutely huge. And I mean, the fans from the Sydney Swans and the Hawthorn will definitely be fired up for this match.
Oh, look, the game will be a sellout. So the ground they play in is the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So they'll have around 101,000 people there, plus probably 3.5 to 4 million people in Australia tuned into the TV telecast.
101,000 people in one place?
Yeah, it's amazing. The atmosphere is incredible, and on grand final day, it's just raised another level again.
So I know the semi-finals were this past weekend. What's the build-up been like for anyone, whether you're Australian living here or down there in Australia? What's the build-up been like during that period?
Well, I think it's been a little bit better than past years because a couple of teams that were on the outside, I guess, have really come to the fore. They didn't make it into the grand final, but they certainly gave the two teams who did a great shake last weekend.
What about as far as now, let's look at these two teams here. Actually, before we get to that, let's talk about the rules. What makes the Australian League that much different as far as rules compared to other rugby leagues?
Okay, well, I do a lot of schools programs here in Edmonton, and the way I describe it to kids is it's a lot like hockey, except we don't have the ice puck or the stick, and we certainly don't have the protective gear.
Yeah.
So it's a 360-degree game, which means it can happen around you, from the front, either side, or even the back. So you really need to be aware of what's going on. It's a contact sport, but we don't wear any padding short of a mouth guard. It's a unique game. We don't throw the ball. We're not allowed to do that. We have to handball it, which is basically hitting the ball off your hand with your fist, and obviously kicking the football. The field, it can run up to about 180 metres in length, so it's nearly the length of two gridiron fields, or CFL fields, if you like, and it can be 140 metres in width, so it's quite wide again.
Well, that's a monster field. Now, I understand the goal is to move the ball up the field, but do guys change quite quickly, or they stay on?
Look, they have a bench where they run substitutes, but it's actually capped. So it's not like a hockey game where guys come on and off all the time. They do that, but at a certain point in time in the game, if they haven't been monitoring the number of changes, they're prevented from making any changes for the rest of the game.
We're talking with Joel O'Brien from the Australian Football Club here in Edmonton, where the big final goes this weekend between Sydney and Hawthorn for the championship in that league. Let's talk now about some of these particular teams here. Sydney Swans, how do they make it to the final? Why are they so good?
Well, look, they had a slow start to the year, and given over the last couple of years they've recruited a number of high-profile recruits through free agency, everyone was expecting great things, but it only took them about 6 rounds to get their act together, and they've been virtually unstoppable since. The last Friday night they played in the preliminary final, so effectively their conference final, and they blew the other side away by 12 goals, which is 72 points.
Oh, geez, that's a lot. So this team, was it expected for Sydney to be in the final?
Yeah, look, they were one of the favourites at the beginning of the year, but like I say, they started a little slow and people began to question what was going on, but they haven't let anyone down since.
What about their coaching staff? Any interesting moves they should make to counteract what Hawthorn's trying to do?
Well, look, actually, I think a lot of the focus is on Sydney's star player, a fellow by the name of Lance Franklin. Now, he played for Hawthorn up until the end of last year, and he switched clubs during free agency. So he's just come out of the league MVP awards in second place. So he's had a big transitional year. He's the guy. He's 6'8". He's 105 kilograms. He can run all day, and in this game, players can run up to 16 kilometres within a 2-hour window. So, he's a big guy and he doesn't stop, and he can kick goals from anywhere.
Boy, man, that is amazing. That's a lot of running in 2 hours for anybody, especially when you're getting bumped around as they do in this great Aussie Football League. We're talking about the final with Joel O'Brien from the Australian Football Club here in Edmonton. The other side of the dice, then, I suppose, if Sydney Swans Hawthorns were expected to be here. Would it be fair to say that Hawthorn then is a bit of the underdog coming to this final that goes Saturday Australian time?
Well, it's interesting. These two clubs have a little bit of recent history in grand finals. 2 years ago, 2012, Sydney actually beat Hawthorn by 10 points in the grand final, and last year Hawthorn actually won the grand final. So I think it's almost too close to call. I think if you look at the calibre of players, you know, the superstars, they certainly have a few more in the Sydney side, but Hawthorn has proven throughout the year that they're very difficult to beat, and those teams that have got up and beat them have only just beaten them.
What's the story with Mr. Cyril Rioli? What is going with him with the Hawks? Is he going to play or is he injured?
Oh, it's cagey, that one. I suspect he'll play. He played in the affiliate side last weekend. He wasn't able to play a full game due to the rules, but also I think they probably gave him a rest once they saw that he was fit and right to go. So I think he'll play, no doubt about it. What role he plays, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, I mean, what impact can he have? Because what position is he as a player on that team?
Oh, look, he can play in the middle of the ground, which is one of those running roles I mentioned before, but he can also play in the forward line, so they're the guys who are charged with kicking the goals. He's not an overly tall player, but he's exceptionally fast and he has fantastic skills.
Let's take a look at some of the other situations going on in the AFL down in Australia. John Horst Longmire is voted Coach of the Year by his peers. Interesting. I like that his peers picked that, but was this a surprise that he won that award?
Yeah, look, I think so, simply because he's had such a gifted bunch of footballers to work with. But I guess on the other side of it, they started off very slow and everyone had written them off and wondering what was going on. They do have one of the older lists in the league, but, they've come up trumps. Like I say, they're probably just a nose in front of Hawthorn in terms of favouritism this weekend.
Look back upon all the AFL finals. Was there one game that just, everyone's got their favourite in any sport, but was there one final that just for you is the epitome of greatness in a final?
Oh, look, I'm a little biased here. I go for a football team called North Melbourne, the Kangaroos. Yeah, look, they haven't had a lot of success over the years, but I think for mine, probably the 1996 grand final where they actually beat Sydney and had broken a 2-decade-long absence of winning premierships. That was probably the one for me. But there have been plenty of fantastic games over the years, especially when you get to the last game of the year, everything's on the table and blokes basically crawl off the field at the end.
That's unbelievable. Now, Joel O'Brien joins us here from the Australian Football Club here in Edmonton, talking about the final in the AFL that goes this weekend, Saturday for Australia, Friday for us. Now, Joel, just a couple of rules I want to clarify. How many imports are there? Or are there any imports on any of these teams?
Yeah, look, there isn't a limit on how many players can play that aren't born in Australia or haven't originated from Australia. But I think, and I might be wrong here, but only Sydney has a player who's not originally from Australia. And in fact, it's interesting because he's a Canadian who made a transition from international rugby to Australian football a few years back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a fellow by the name of Mike Pike. So another big guy. He stands a little over 200 centimetres and he plays in a position called the ruck. So I'm not sure if you know, but the job of those guys is the umpire or the referee will throw the ball in the air and the two ruckmen run at each other, jump up and try and tap the ball down. in some ways similar to a jump ball in basketball, except they have a decent old run up at one another first.
So it's obviously it's fair to say that the best players in the world this sport are all Australians, because if there was better players outside, they'd come and play in that league.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. We've had a number of very, very good Irish players over the years, and there's definitely a large number of recruits from Ireland, but also New Zealand, and there's a couple of Americans on AFL club books at the moment as well. So there's a push to look for elite sportsmen outside of Australia, not necessarily those who've played football, but people who are able to run, who have elite skills, eye-hand coordination, those types of things, elite endurance especially. So there's more and more every year. Now,
Joel, let's say you and I could be down in Australia for this game on Saturday, Australian time, or Austria time, or sorry, Australian time. We go walk into a bar. What type of beer are you and I opening to enjoy this game while we watch?
Oh, most certainly a Carlton Draft.
Carlton, is that unique to Australia? Is that an Australian beer?
It is, yes. Yeah, it originates in Melbourne, in fact.
So I'd assume there'll be a lot of Carlton draft being sold on Saturday.
I definitely hope so.
Now, let's say here we want to get together and watch the game. Is there somewhere where a lot of Aussie Rules football fans will get together and watch this?
Yeah, so the Edmonton Australian Football Club is hosting a grand final event at the Pint downtown in the back room on Friday night. We've got some club activities on from probably around 8:30. People are most welcome to join us for those. It should be a bit of fun. And the game itself kicks off at 10:30 p.m.
So 10:30. So if the game starts at 10, it should be, what time should be done? About 12:30?
What in the
in the AM?
Get down there. No, sorry, 10:30 in the evening. So get down there maybe 10 o'clock at night and grab a beer and come and join us.
And then the game, because the game takes about 2 hours, though, right?
Yeah, it should be finished by about 1:30, maybe 2 a.m.
Okay, absolutely awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to this final, and I'll be working, so I can't come down and share some of those Carlton with you. Will there be some Carlton in the Pint? Having some of that for you guys?
Look, I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Right, I'll send
There'll be a bit of everything.
I love it. Well, listen, Joel, have yourself a great night Friday. Should be a great final. Any last-minute predictions about who's going to win this game?
Look, I have to say I don't care.
I love it. Unless your team was in there.
Yeah, my team went out last week, so I'm not fussed anymore.
Sounds good. You can just sit back and relax, enjoy the game. Well, enjoy the game, have fun, and we'll talk to you about this soon.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time, Jason.